If I ask people the general question on what is nutrition, I'm sure everybody has some general idea of what it means. It's a word we've all heard before and used before. But what exactly is it and why is it so important? Not just for health, general health, but for those who are into fitness with a specific goal. How can nutrition be used to help achieve that goal? This video is going to attempt to break down the foundations of a healthy diet, what diet you should incorporate for your fitness goals, as well as give some personal advice and strategies for those struggling with their diet. Let's get one thing straight first. Whatever your goal is in your fitness journey, you need to have an established form of diet, meaning you can't just eat whatever you want and expect to get the results you want. Depending on your goal, there are specific ways you have to incorporate nutrition to essentially train effectively and get the most out of it. Because ultimately, if exercise is one half of the journey, then nutrition is the second half. Because you can't have one without the other. If you want to change how you look and feel, you need to change how you train and eat. Okay? Now that that's established, let's go over the foundations of a healthy nutritional diet. For starters, whether you like it or not, your body is constantly using up energy in every type of movement and activity on a 24-hour basis. Is to maintain the process called homeostasis, which is your body's way of self-regulation. So when we talk about calories in this context, all a calorie is a unit of energy expressed in the value of nutrients and in body heat. It basically explains why food has a certain amount of calories and why when your body temperature rises from training or from anything else, you're burning calories. This is also why it's important to have a calorie balance. If you want to maintain your weight, you want to roughly consume the same amount of calories you burn each day. Makes sense, right? The ideal calorie intake per day is heavily dependent on age, sex, weight, and activity level, but it typically ranges from 1500 to 3000. Next, there are two types of nutrients. There's our macronutrients or macros and micronutrients or micros. Macros are the things you know that exist in food. They're the proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. Proteins are the amino acids that typically aid in muscle growth. Carbs act as the main energy source in our body, and fats are essential to hormone production, nutrient absorption, and serve as a backup energy reserve in our body. Yes, it is beneficial to have fat in your body. Macros are where the main source of calories come from. So then we have our micros, which are the essential vitamins and minerals that play a crucial role in metabolism, immune function, and maintenance of the tissues and organs. These are the colorful little fruits and veggies in your diet that contain compounds that are produced naturally in the body, as well as elements that exist naturally on the earth. The last thing that's typically needed for a well-balanced and healthy diet is water. Surprise, surprise. Most people generally know that water is an essential element to life and that it's important to stay well hydrated. So for this, all I'll really say is that when you drink water, the general guideline states 3 liters or 13 cups per day for men and 2.2 liters or 9 cups per day for women. So now that we got the basis of what nutrition is, we're going to transition into how one utilizes their nutrition to reach specific goals. The two most common goals most people have when trying to incorporate a specific diet is to either build muscle or to lose fat. When it comes to building muscle, the main priorities for this is to have a moderate increase in overall calories above your general maintenance, as well as an increase in protein intake. The term for this in the weightlifting community is known as bulking, which is basically a pure muscle building diet that maximizes total calories and protein. Now take note, when incorporating this type of diet, it's important to know you will gain some type of fat along the way. It just happens. It's part of the process involved when consuming calories. Now there are ways of negating the amount of fat gained in proportion to muscle. For starters, when eating foods that do contain fats, it's generally recommended to keep it within 20 to 25% of your total calorie intake, so they don't displace the protein or carbs that are included. In other words, basically, try to avoid foods that typically contain mostly fat and don't contain any of the other essential macros that I've said earlier. Next, you need to try to eat above your daily calorie intake. The numbers for this may vary, but the rule of thumb is within 200 to 300 calories per day. And even this will be subject to change and be adjusted gradually based on your weekly weight trends that you may notice along your journey. When it comes to protein itself, there's three factors to consider: an appropriate type, the amount, and the time. The best type of protein to eat is going to be found in leucine-rich sources such as dairy, eggs, and lean meats. Leucine is an amino acid that triggers protein synthesis in your metabolism, which stimulate new muscle growth in the body. Your body absorbs nutrients when it's broken down and sent to the small intestine to the bloodstream. Also, a key and crucial aspect to note is that protein usage is not the same as protein absorption. Okay? This is where the other two factors of amount and time come into play. When you consume protein per gram, it's entirely dependent on how many calories of what you're eating contains. This is why protein intake per day is more important than protein intake per meal, so you can properly consume the adequate amount of protein and calories that you need for the day that you need. This is the basis of muscle building diet. So let's transition to a fat loss diet. Now, when it comes to fat loss, the main priorities for this is consuming a lower amount of your natural calorie intake per day, losing weight in the process while also being able to preserve muscle. This term can be described in the weightlifting community as cutting. A calorie deficit typically is around 10 to 20% below maintenance and aims to lose 0.5 to 1% of body weight per week. When you're losing weight, your natural fat levels drop. So it's recommended you keep your carbs elevated and adjusted to the level of your fat by cycling between the two sources in between the meal. Because as I said before, fat is a backup source of energy for your body, and carbs act as the main source of energy for the body. Protein in this case is recommended to stay on the moderate to higher end, around 0.8 to 1.2 grams or pound per pounds, typically around the same amount as a bulking diet. So naturally, preserving muscle retention and growth while losing weight is the ideal way of losing fat. It's also advised that eating high fiber foods such as vegetables, fruits, and whole grains, as well as high volume meals like salads, soups, this can help aid in the process because you can feel full by consuming lower calories. The final aspect to nutrition is being able to properly plan your meals ahead of time. Meal planning is one of the most practical tips to establishing a nutritional diet. Knowing what you're eating and how much of it matters, because at the end of the day, no matter what you're eating, it's important to have a balanced plate that targets all your general macros and micros like mentioned earlier. Knowing how much you should eat if you want to target your specific goals. And to help with this, it's recommended you have prepared and pre-cooked food you want in little containers ready to go. If you plan on eating out and tracking the calories of what the food you want to eat in general per day. If you want to record your progress along the way, you could try weighing and measuring yourself every now and then and logging your short-term goals that you will reach through consistency. When putting it all together, you should cohesively establish your baseline calorie set of what to eat and be able to fine-tune said calorie set of how to eat via a slight change in your diet. All in all, everything you eat has a certain nutritional value in it. There are numerous ways to incorporate a nutritional diet. The next step for you would be to try and become more consciously aware of these types of foods that you're eating, so it becomes integral to your overall life and health. Because again, when it comes to fitness, nutrition is half the battle. So, thank y'all for watching. Until next time, I'll see you then.